Hello and welcome to today's webinar. We're going to get started here in a moment. Thank you so much for joining. I would ask you to please ask questions in the comments as we go through the slides, and I'll be answering those questions as we go through them. So today's session, we're going to be going over Self-Directed IRA LLC Provider Guide, how to choose, where to open, what to consider. So hopefully this will be helpful. This is a common topic that comes up with our clients and prospective clients, so hopefully you find it helpful. So let's get started. Just testing the audio here. 1 second, please. Okay, great. It looks like we are ready to get going. So, all right. So let's see a roadmap of what we're going to discuss today. So first of all, we're going to talk about the types of providers that are out there in terms of self-directed IRA and IRA LLC providers. So you get a kind of a lay of the land, what you should consider, what you should look for, how you should choose when you're deciding who to work with. Some good practical tips as you think about that and make your decision. And then how to get more info about your specific situation. So you can ask questions, of course, as we go through the slides. If you're watching this on a video, you can ask questions in the comments and we respond to those within 1 business day. Please like this video. We'd really appreciate that, and please subscribe. So let's connect on our channel and you'll get notifications of all of our videos. We do these weekly webinars. So if you find this helpful, you'll probably find some of our other ones helpful too. In terms of where to open, which is really, the types of providers that are out there, there are companies that will market that they offer self-directed IRA accounts. So for example, Schwab or TD Ameritrade or another brokerage like that. So that is different than the type of self-directed IRA LLC that we are talking about in this session. So just to kind of define that, a self-directed IRA at those types of companies is going to allow you to pick your own investments. So you can pick the stock or the mutual fund or the ETF, but you're really limited to that brokerage firm's offerings. Whereas with a self-directed IRA LLC, like the one that we offer, you can invest in alternative investments and you can do so with checkbook control. So that means you can invest in things like real estate, Bitcoin, and other cryptocurrencies. You can invest in notes and just other alternative investments. And you can do so with checkbook control. So you are able to directly control and make those investments. So in terms of the alternative investment providers, there's really 2 types. So you have some self-directed IRA where they're truly self-directed in the sense that you can invest in alternative investments, but they don't offer checkbook control. So examples of those types of providers would be Pensco, Equity Trust, just to name a couple. And then you have the self-directed IRA LLC providers like us, which are going to allow you to have an LLC account, which is owned by your IRA, where you act as the manager and the IRA as the member. And then therefore you as the manager have checkbook control over the money. So you can quickly make an investment, whether it's a real estate transaction or a syndicated transaction. So in that structure, there's really 2 entities involved. You got the IRA LLC provider like us, and then your IRA accounts are at a trust company or a custodian. So examples of those types of companies would be Forge Trust. It's formerly known as IRA Services Trust Company, Kingdom Trust, IRA Resources, just to name a couple. So let's keep going through the slides. So please, again, ask questions as we go through so we can get those questions answered. If you have a question, probably others have the same question, so it'd be helpful to all. Now, in terms of how to choose and what to consider as you're thinking of self-directed IRA LLCs and considering your options. Remember, there's two entities involved. You have the IRA trust company or the custodian. So you have to pick a company that is going to allow you to have an IRA investment in an LLC. So if you go back to the other slide, you've got this second bullet here, like Equity Trust, Pensco. Those companies don't offer the checkbook control. But then you go back to bullet 3, Forge Trust, Kingdom Trust, IRA Resources, etc. Those companies do allow you to have an IRA that invests in a brand new LLC. And then you need to pick the IRA LLC provider, because if you go to those companies, they're not going to set up the LLC for you. They're not going to prepare the investment documents. They're not going to really help you with educating you on the investment rules. So that's where you would pick a company like us. Now, with us, of course, we prepare all of the documents that are needed. So you're going to need, of course, to set up the LLC. So that's going to be the articles of organization or formation in your state, wherever wherever you're setting up that LLC. Usually it's in the state that you live in and invest in. Obtaining an EIN for the LLC, because again, it's going to be a 2-account structure. You have the IRA account, which then invests in a bank account in the name of the LLC. So you're going to need to be able to go and open up a bank account in the name of the LLC. In order to do that, you're going to need an EIN number. Investment documents required by the IRA trust company or custodian to process that IRA investment. So the IRA trust company or custodian, they are not going to allow you to just wire money directly to the LLC. They're going to want to see the operating agreement and other investment documents. So with our customers, we prepare those documents as part of our services so that you can wire that money right away. And then taking it a step further, you want to think about what you're looking to do, right? Are you looking to invest in Bitcoin, right? So does that IRA LLC provider have experience in helping others with that same type of investment? Are you looking to invest in a syndicated transaction or real estate, somebody that can educate you and help guide you through? I mean, you know what you want to invest in, but you really need to be educated on the mechanics and just some of the mechanics of setting it up, but also the rules of how to make that investment. So just to give you a simple example, right? A lot of times there are documents that you need to fill out to make a syndicated transaction investment. A syndicated transaction would be like there's an investment in an apartment complex, so multifamily, right? And they're looking for 30, 40, 50 investors. So you're just passively investing in that. But in order to do that, you need to complete investment documents so that the investment is titled in the name of your IRA LLC. Same thing with cryptocurrency, right? There's a lot of pitfalls as far as being able to get that. And we did a PowerPoint, a webinar and a PowerPoint on that topic. You can, again, if you subscribe, you can check it out in the channel or go to our website. We have all of our videos posted there too, mysolo401k.net. But you'll see that there are a lot of pitfalls in terms of the mechanics of getting the account set up at the exchange. So having that provider with that investment experience can just make things much smoother for you, as you're going to make your investment. Because a lot of times these investment opportunities are not just, they don't last forever. You need to be able to act quick. And so if you're not organized and you're disorganized, you might miss that investment opportunity. Lastly, as you're looking at IRA LLC providers, and this is related, but you want to look for a provider that has a pristine customer service reputation. And a lot of that goes back to the experience, responsiveness, because ultimately you want to make your investment. You need that expertise, and you need the provider that's going to respond in a timely manner, because time is of the essence to make your particular investment. So a great way to verify that is by looking at reviews, such as the Better Business Bureau reviews, because those are going to be true customer reviews. These are not just referral sources or fake reviews. The Better Business Bureau, they have a reputation. They verify that it's a customer review, and look for a provider like us that has no negative reviews out there. That's a great way to verify that you are going to get the customer service that you need. So let's keep going. So then, as far as practical tips, a good consideration here is looking at the fee and minimum balance requirement. So those trust companies, the custodians, oftentimes they don't charge anything to set up the IRA account, but they have their own separate fee structure. So now it's going to be much more simplified if all that you're investing in is an LLC. So if you just had your money at the IRA and you were making investments directly through that IRA, there's going to be just a la carte fees and transaction fees as you make your investments. So by having everything in the LLC, that's going to minimize the fees, because now from the trust company perspective, you just have one investment, the LLC. But they still do typically have a flat fee plus a percentage of the balance fee. So some don't have the percentage of the balance, but some do. So you are going to want to think about how much money are you going to have in there? What other types of transactions might you be doing? And really try to project how much it's going to cost you to have an account at this trust company or custodian. Another consideration is minimum balance requirements. So every company has a different policy, right? So if you have a specific investment number in mind, you need to roll over more than just that amount. Like, let's say you have an existing IRA that's in a brokerage account at Vanguard, but you want to invest in a syndicated transaction and it's a $50,000 minimum investment that you want to make. You need to roll over more than $50,000 because you're going to have to leave money in that account at the trust company to cover the fees. Don't wait until the last minute. So it's setting up these accounts. We move as fast as possible, but it still takes time, right? Your biggest X factor is the time that it's going to take to move the money from wherever it is today. Sometimes it can take several weeks because money is moving by check. You got to fill out transfer forms. These companies are moving at their own pace. And so it's going to behoove you to set it up in advance, set up and fund that IRA LLC in advance so you're ready to invest. Because again, a lot of times these investment opportunities, they got a limited window. There's a lot of people that want to invest. So you might have an opportunity, but they won't wait for you if you don't have your money ready to go. Next, consider whether the IRA LLC provider needs to be approved by the IRA trust company or custodian. So with some of those companies that we mentioned that do allow for investing in an LLC, they require that you as the customer are working with the provider that's on their approved list. They want to know that the documents have been reviewed and approved by an attorney oftentimes. So that's something to think about when you're choosing which trust company or custodian to work with. And then lastly, when you're making this type of alternative investment, you might run into a situation where unrelated business income tax, UBIT, applies, or unrelated debt finance income tax applies. So the quick common examples would be, let's say you are investing in a business, right? So it's something, who knows, in the cannabis industry, right? Where you're buying an equity position in this business that's providing goods and services. If that entity itself is taxed as a pass-through, the income that's attributable to your IRA LLC investment is generally going to be subject to UBIT. I mean, there's minimum thresholds, et cetera, but that's the general rule. Another quick example, let's say your IRA LLC invests in real estate where there's financing to acquire that real estate. You got a non-recourse loan to buy a rental property. So that means that part of the income that is attributable to your IRA LLC investment is going to be subject to unrelated debt finance income tax. And so if you're making that type of investment, you're going to want to look for a provider that has resources, expert resources to help you address those issues. So please ask questions. Looks like we got a good question here. Let's look at this. It says, if I'm no longer self-employed, can I transfer my solo 401k to an IRA LLC? Great question. So the answer is, if you're no longer self-employed and you have a solo 401k, right? Let's say you're a solo practitioner attorney. You don't have any employees working for you. You set up a solo 401k, but then you got a W-2 job somewhere. So you shut down your practice. So now the business that sponsors that solo 401k has been shut down. So the the related 401k needs to be shut down. And so then you would transfer the assets over to an IRA. So if those are alternative investments, right? Let's say you had a rental property inside your solo 401k. You can't just transfer a rental property over to an IRA at Fidelity or at Vanguard. So you're going to have to get it over into an IRA that will accommodate that type of investment. So if you want to continue to have checkbook control over the money, then an IRA LLC would be a great fit. And yes, you could definitely transfer it over to an IRA LLC, and we can help you with those mechanics. So good question. So I'll just remind people to ask questions if you have any in the chat. I thank everybody for taking the time to join. If you do have questions, please contact us at business@mysolo401k.net. We can go over your specific situation. 1-800-489-7571. I would again ask you to please like and subscribe to our channel. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel. And you can ask questions in the comments, or you can contact us via these ways. So thank you again, everyone, for joining and the participation. And we look forward to our webinar next week. Take care, everyone.